Today, I will share wisdom that lies at the heart of our spiritual path, to nourish the wisdom in our consciousness. May our minds awaken from the slumber of unknowing and transcend the cycle of mental formations. This is what we call reaching enlightenment. The journey to enlightenment is a matter of consciousness. It is not about individual beings or personal identities. In truth, no one is truly born into this world in an absolute sense. There is only consciousness and its formations. It is only the mind and its mental formations. The mind relies on these formations, stirring and shaping them, assigning value to various states. This process is occurring right now, in this very present moment, and then it dissolves away, also in the present moment. There is no one being born, no one dying, and no story to tell. The Dharma is this: there is no past, no future, no time, no form, no simple abstraction, only the rippling of nature's movements. Our minds are like empty, clear elements, like the pure emptiness before us. This empty clarity has never been born, nor does it die. It neither comes nor goes. Look for yourself at the pure emptiness before you. There is no good or bad, no merit or demerit, no right or wrong, no wholesome or unwholesome actions, no stories to be told. Darkness simply passes into the mind, empty and clear, and then the darkness dissolves. Light enters into the empty clarity, and the light dissolves. A storm appears in the empty clarity, and then it dissolves. Living and non-living beings manifest in the empty clarity, and then they dissolve. But the empty clarity remains untouched by anything. It simply is as it is. No matter how time shifts or changes, the empty clarity remains unaffected. In truth, there is no such thing as time. Time arises from the mental formations that fabricate and construct concepts. We must understand this teaching well. This teaching is the highest. It is the supreme Dharma, the Dharma that transcends all fabrications. It is a truth that we all share. It can be called the element of Dharma. Our minds are the element of Dharma. Our minds are the element of emptiness. It is the element of empty clarity, the element of life, the immortal element, the element that is the source of all mental formations. The element of name arises from this pure element. The element of form arises from this pure element. This pure element is the origin, the element that remains centered at all times, the element where time itself is centered. It is the element of neutrality, the element of the present moment, existing at all times. The term present moment doesn't even need a name to be called the present moment. This element of Dharma is completely free from any fabrication. The sound I am speaking now is a fabricated element called the element of name. It ripples and arises from the pure element of Dharma, and this is called the mental formations. The mental formations arise from the mind itself. When our minds are ignorant, when they grasp and become deluded, these mental formations transform into forms called the subtle body. The nature of the mind is inherent in itself, as it is. Whenever we fixate our attention on any phenomenon, those phenomena instantly manifest into forms and appearances in our consciousness. This is referred to as the gross body or the subtle body. Every time we focus or make an effort to do something for a reason, our mind attaches to something, and that thing immediately takes on a form. This is what is called a self. Let us try to think of the faces of our parents. When we think of the faces of our parents, we may notice that they are aging. Picture the faces of our parents or our elderly grandparents. See how they move with such difficulty, struggling with even simple tasks. Contemplate their image. This is what we call the nature of self, as impermanent as morning dew on a lotus leaf. Whenever we place our awareness on sound, on images, on emotions, or on the sense of knowing, that is when the self takes form. The form of either the coarse or subtle body arises. We must understand this truth clearly. This truth is truly beyond intellectual grasp. It is a truth that should not be thought about, for it is completely free from thought. This is the transmission from mind to mind. Why is it said to be free from thought? Because the sound you hear is not actually sound. If anyone sees it as sound, it means they still perceive a self, and they are still in ignorance. Their heart is still fully dominated by delusion. The possibility of realizing the truth has not yet arisen. I have taught Dharma through many hundreds of tapes, always focusing on pointing to the mind, pointing to the principle of anatta, non-self, pointing to the principle of awakening, known as the establishment of mindfulness. This is because I must speak in a way that allows you to follow, gradually understanding. But if I speak in terms of Abhidhamma, the higher teachings, we cannot use our intellect to understand. We cannot rely on thought to grasp it. We must use the mind to understand. This is called the transmission from mind to mind. It is a way of pointing to the nature of truth which is beyond language. As I speak now, this is not sound. We do not need to label it as sound or impose conceptual views upon it. This nature does not require concepts. Its only function is to know things as they truly are. As the Buddha taught, we simply know things as they are, exactly as they are. There is no need to intentionally know, because nature already knows in its own way. When we simply observe the knowledge that is naturally occurring, the various phenomena arise on their own, manifest together, and dissolve together. We merely observe and direct our awareness to this, recognizing that all phenomena are as they are, with nothing that belongs to us or is ours. This knowledge is beyond language. It is a knowing that arises from the mind, knowing things as they truly are, not according to concepts. It does not rely on concepts for learning, but directly leads the mind to see the truth. When the mind knows as it truly is, free from language and story, we simply direct our understanding without the need to seek understanding. Just listen to my teachings without using the intellect, without thinking. Be like an earthworm whose only job is to feel, just feel continuously this nature, this thing, or we might call it sound, or we might not even call it anything at all. This nature ripples, transmitting from mind to mind. This nature ripples, revealing the truth to our minds, allowing them to resonate and understand. We simply observe from within, noticing that this sound touches our mind. This sound has no form, and it is not really a sound. It is merely something that touches the mind, and our mind has no form either. It is like an empty, clear space that functions to perceive this. This thing, or whatever it is, touches the element of emptiness, the pure element. This pure element then ripples with awareness, performing its function in this way. It arises together and dissolves together in this manner. We simply bow down to see this truth, a truth that is beyond language. In reality, there is nothing that touches, and there is nothing that knows. There is no story, nothing at all. But when transmitting the teaching to sentient beings, it is necessary to use these forms to convey it. Therefore, sentient beings must incline their minds to listen, to follow the current of this Dharma. Always remind yourself, do not use thought, do not use the intellect. The task is to know, to observe, to understand naturally. There is no one who understands. Let nature understand on its own until the Buddha nature arises. Suddenly tears may fall, and you will feel light, unburdened, unusual. As you listen to the Dharma, you will feel lighter, freer, as if there is nothing. You will feel a deep inner peace and a sense that you know everything. You will sense the brightness within, and then suddenly you will break free from certain conditions, moved to tears by a deep realization that is beyond language. This knowing is deeply felt within. It is a matter of the mind. When the mind breaks free from mental formations, from conditions, you will experience liberation, a purity, an emptiness that merges with all things. It will no longer feel heavy, no longer attached to anything. You will be independent, free. Tears may flow, and there may be sounds of sadhu all around, while you might even see a vision of the body dissolving. The subtlety collapses, shattering and clearing away. You may see a bright light encompassing the entire universe, or perhaps no vision at all. But you will know in your heart that the mind has broken free, and a deep realization arises, completely dispelling all doubt. Even if the Buddha were standing before you, you would not need to ask. It is like someone who has been asleep for a long time. When they suddenly awaken, stand up and walk, they know in their heart that they are awake. They don't need to ask, how do you know you are awake? They know because they are awake. The one who is awake knows they are awake, while the one who is still asleep can only dream of how it feels to awaken, or wonder how to wake up. They may dream of being awake, dream of trying to wake up, but all of it remains a dream, a state of sleep. We all are mind. We are the element of pure, empty, clear space. Our mind, when it begins to learn, in the world of illusion, there is a need to rely on the ripples of mental fabrications. The mind depends on mental formations, thoughts, feelings, and sensations. These mental ripples simply ripple and form, but the mind has yet to understand the purpose of what it is learning. It does not yet have an answer, only that it is using these fabrications to learn about things. It is like us, who rely on sound. In truth, we were never born, and we have no inherent shape. This is not our body, yet we think and assign meaning, calling it the left arm, left leg, right leg, the index finger, the middle finger, the ring finger, the thumb, saying this is a man, this is a woman. We rely on these sounds to give value to what we call our body, even though the elements themselves do not declare what they are. These elements merely serve as a coarse physical form, not expressing anything inherently. The clarity of the mind takes residence. Let me offer another way of understanding this, so that we may grasp it. I am trying to show you that all formations are anatta, or without self. You can refer to the 5 aggregates as anatta, or simply reduce them to one single formation, which is the mental formation. This mental formation, or citta sankhara, does not have an inherent self. It is merely a transient phenomenon arising due to ignorance, the mind's not knowing. The mind clings to this, and when the mind connects with any sensation, the sense of self arises in that moment. However, when that sensation does not settle anywhere, when it rests in emptiness, when it rests in the state of not being anything, all phenomena become abstract, like the wind without form. But the moment the mind attaches a sensation to something, a form arises, what we call the subtle body, a manifestation of a self-identity, appearing instantly. The ordinary characteristics of the Dharma elements are similar to the principles of science. If we have the opportunity to study the smallest parts of an atom, learning down to the smallest units, the quarks, these are the smallest units in the quantum system. Smaller than quantum units are quarks, which are incredibly small. We will begin to understand a nature that cannot be explained by conventional concepts. The mind is like this. One day, science will gradually come to understand the nature of the mind. Our mind is the subtlest of all natures. To explain it this way, our mind is a nature of empty, clear space. I often say this. Our mind is like an empty, clear space, like the clear emptiness that is right in front of us. This clear emptiness has no form, no gender, no parents, and is not connected to anything. This nature of clear emptiness is the original element. When this clear nature desires knowledge, it seeks the understanding of wisdom, then creates the ripples of mental fabrications in the body. We understand this well. I will speak of teachings you may not have heard before. The nature of the mind, this empty, clear space, has no form. This is the origin. We are this element. You can call it the element of nirvana, or the element of emptiness, or the Dharma element. Any of these names will do. You can call it the origin element, the zero element, whatever you wish, or even choose not to name it at all. It has no name. No one becomes anything. Everything I speak is simply a fabrication. Understand this simple truth. We've studied the Dharma all our lives, yet we haven't grasped the essence of it. The path and its fruits do not arise. Why? Because we have never heard the true Dharma, but only played with concepts, with the language of convention. We believe in these conventional terms. We cling to them and identify with the body. Practice, even though the Dharma is not related to the body, nor to beings, persons, or self, we still take the self to practice it. The Dharma is akaliko, timeless, not bound by time, yet we use time to measure it. It is not about beings, persons, or self, yet we bring the concepts of beings, persons, and self into our practice. This is a delusion. Our mind is deluded, our views are distorted, our perceptions are warped. We see what has no self as having a self, what is not us as being us, what is impermanent as permanent. We mistake what has never had a self for something that exists, giving value to it as if it exists or does not exist. All of this is simply the mental formations creating fabrications. Sentient beings are caught in pleasure, pushing away suffering. Pleasure and suffering are two sides of the same coin. We cannot see that good and bad, merit and demerit, wholesome and unwholesome, are all fabrications, yet we perceive them as separate and distinct, even though they have never had an inherent self. Thus, sentient beings remain trapped in the cycle of samsara. No matter how skilled one becomes, they still circle in samsara. Even if one is excellent at concentration, caught in the cycle of existence, the mind remains unenlightened. No matter how well one memorizes or masters scriptures, one still revolves in the cycle of existence because of ignorance of playing with mental formations. The illusion persists of a self that is good or skilled, even though no one truly exists in this world. Returning to the essence of Dhamma, our minds are fundamentally a pure and empty nature, like clear, formless space before us. This nature, when desiring to learn, creates subtle elements from this clear emptiness, delicate, translucent forms. These elements arise to facilitate learning. which can be referred to as avijja, ignorance, though calling it by this name or not makes no difference. In truth, avijja has no real existence. Knowledge, vijja, or ignorance, greed, anger, delusion, virtue, mindfulness, concentration or wisdom, none of these truly exist. There is only one natural state, eternally pure and complete. Generosity, virtue, mindfulness, concentration and wisdom are already complete and perfect within. They can be named, but naming is unnecessary because they are not distinct entities. Such terms are spoken only to help humans understand. This pure, clear and empty essence seeks to learn and therefore creates subtle forms, like translucent bubbles. Inside these bubbles too is pure and clear emptiness, which is not anything in itself. Now our minds create these subtle elements, a form of transparent emptiness. Once created, they become capable of interaction. When sound, smell, taste or touch arises, these forms respond to external stimuli, yet no matter the form we take, whether as microorganisms or as consciousness within such forms, there are no ears, no nose, no sensory faculties as humans perceive them, regardless of the vessel or the subtle body in which the mind resides. The mind's purpose remains constant. Simply be aware, whether it is the coarse body or the subtle body, their sole function is to perceive. They exist as elements of clarity, forming a pure essence that encases themselves. When the natural process of the mind constructs mental formations, it creates a pure, transparent essence of consciousness. This analogy is provided to help humans comprehend, as without such explanations, it would be difficult to grasp. Teaching the Dharma to humans requires great care, for humans cling to the belief that they are inherently human. Similarly, living beings identify themselves as such, even though in truth there is no inherent existence. Nothing and no one is truly born into this world. Yet there persists this belief of being human, rooted in language, even though language itself has no intrinsic reality. This is the illusion of existence. The essence of knowing, this could also be referred to as consciousness, as the knowing element. This description helps bridge understanding, explaining that consciousness is this element of knowing, a clear, pure essence encasing emptiness. This is what we call the mind. It is the element of knowing, but it belongs to no one. It is simply the element of knowing. This explanation is provided to help humans understand it as a natural phenomenon that functions solely to perceive. Perception arises through contact. When contact occurs, the element knows and ripples simultaneously. This ripple manifests as emotion. With repeated contact, the ripples grow frequent, forming patterns of memory and learning. These ripples become the process of recognizing images, learning sights, sounds, smells, touches, and everything that contacts through the sense faculties. The number of sense faculties is not the point. Whether it is 1, 2, or 3 faculties, the process remains the same. Whatever makes contact, the element of knowing responds with a ripple of perception. As it perceives, it also assigns meaning, records, processes, and pieces together the experience, be it an image, sound, scent, taste, or touch. This ripple weaves the elements of perception, interprets, and gives value to what is experienced. Meaning exists to help us understand. It is akin to a thin, transparent sheet. Like the delicate membrane of a speaker, perhaps the ultra-thin diaphragm of a phone speaker. When it is touched or contacted, it ripples continuously. These ripples can vary in frequency, from high to low. Similarly, our minds ripple in this way. vibrating and fabricating thoughts, mental images, emotions. These ripples create coarse or subtle patterns, positive or negative, good or bad, right or wrong, wholesome or unwholesome. Yet none of this truly exists. It is all just rippling. The essence of the Dharma is no more than this: understanding the nature of knowing and the nature of mental fabrication. Or one could say understanding the mind and its formations. The mind itself is an element, empty, clear and pure. Mental formations are its expressions, whether knowing, thinking, imagining or experiencing emotions. Whatever form these expressions take, they are merely manifestations. To feel anger is just an expression. To feel joy is just an expression, nothing more. States, whether of happiness or suffering, good or bad, wholesome or unwholesome, are all creations of our own making. In truth, there is no such division. There is only knowing things as they are. And what are they? They are not anything in particular. They are just as they are. Like the sound of my voice reaching you, it is simply known in that moment, and then it passes. It is just words, just a moment. The sound itself is not truly a sound, nor does it carry inherent meaning. It is merely something that comes into contact and the mind perceives it. That's all. Then it is gone. No one owns anything because no one truly exists in this world. There are only the expressions of nature. Do you understand this? Anyone who grasps this understanding instantly realizes the Dharma. Do not cling to anything, for there is nothing to gain or lose. There are only the expressions of nature. This is the transmission from mind to mind, requiring no reliance on words or sound. If you still believe that this is sound, then it shows you are still perceiving individuality and selfhood. It shows that you are still grasping at concepts. The Dhamma is not yet understood. We still do not know what the Buddha really taught. Instead, we continue to debate with the Buddha. The Buddha declared that the 5 aggregates, khandhas, are non-self, meaning there is nothing there. Do you understand? Nothing at all. The Buddha reiterated, Sabbe Dhamma Anatta, all phenomena, or let us now delve into some teachings of the Tathagata, do not possess any true self. Even what I am saying now does not have a self. There is no one speaking, and this is not a voice. There is no one perceiving anything. There is only the natural flow performing its functions. Hing Sattva. What I have spoken so far is coarse. The Dhamma I am explaining here is quite crude. For those who find it difficult to grasp, it can be overwhelming. But listen repeatedly, and it will become clearer. This is the true nature of Dhamma. Listen carefully. In the time of the Buddha, those with wisdom needed only a brief mention of a Dhamma theme to attain realization. It was that simple. With just a hint of a Dhamma topic, many people awakened. But for those who have not yet grasped the essence, who remain in darkness, hearing this might leave them bewildered. As for the nature of our mind, it simply seeks to learn. The learning of the mind relies on mental formations and the elements of its own body to perceive. It ripples and perceives, continuously in motion like this, forming and attributing meaning to things, seeking to understand them, until one day a Buddha, an enlightened being, one of great wisdom, realized this truth and came to show us that the 5 aggregates are non-self. The 5 aggregates are the mental formations. Mental formations are non-self. I simplify it this way, do you understand? The 5 aggregates are both the physical and the mental aspects, body and mind. The physical form arises because of the mental, which gives it meaning. For instance, this sound is giving meaning to this body. Without this sound, we wouldn't know what this is. Do you understand? If there's no meaning, everything becomes just nothing. It's the same. It's like looking at something that has no meaning. We don't have language to describe it. What is it? That thing becomes nothing, because there is no mental concept to give it meaning. Do you understand? Without sound, I would say there is no sound. If this sound didn't exist, without any concept attributing value to it, everything would simply be as it is, just finished. The physical form arises because of the mental concept. That's it. Don't worry about the physical form. Some might say we need to abandon the physical form, but we don't need to abandon anything, because it doesn't have a self. If we see that this body has no self, that it's not us, then that's the end of it. This is what it means to have the eye that sees the truth. That's why I emphasize so much that anyone who can see their own thoughts, once they see them clearly, tears will fall. That's it. Don't ask what position that is. We prepare ourselves not to be born. That's enough. There's no need to know what position you're in. It's of no use. Positions don't matter. We don't practice to gain a position. We practice to see that everything is just as it is. There is no self, no one doing or gaining anything. Now the mental phenomena, the fabricated thoughts, are simply mental formations. They are ripples in the mind. If we break it down further, mental formations are the substance of the mind. They are the mind's fabric, created by ignorance, which forms the pure element to perform the function of perceiving and fabricating. That's all. This substance, this element, is meant for learning. Its only purpose is as a tool for learning. It's like when we want to catch a fish, we need a fishing rod or a net. The rod and the net are just tools to catch the fish, that's all. The mind wants to learn, but it mistakenly seeks to learn from external things. It relies on this tool, on the act of knowing, on the thought processes and fabrications in order to learn. So it ends up learning externally. When the Buddha attained enlightenment, he realized the truth of all things. He reached the pure Dhamma element and understood that because avijja pakaya sankhara, because of ignorance, the mind flows into attachment and conditioning. The mind becomes deluded, clinging to the fabrications it creates, and then it carries those fabrications as if they were real. It's like how we rely on this sound, even though it's not actually a sound, yet we believe it is. We believe that we are truly thinking and speaking. This is what humans believe, and all beings in the world too. In truth, if our parents or teachers had taught us this from childhood, the whole world would have realized the truth easily. We would all have attained awakening by now. This is how we should teach our children. Teach them to awaken to the Dhamma. This is the simple Dhamma. Once we understand it, we can teach it to others. When this happens, everyone will become noble beings, entering an age of prosperity with ease. There's nothing complicated about it. The age of prosperity is one where everyone attains awakening easily, where Dhamma is simple and realization is accessible to all. In such a time, no one will be caught in the cycle of samsara anymore. It's happening right now. It must happen now. There's no need to wait or strive for anything. There's no effort required. Everything must arise now, and everything must end now. The cycle of samsara will collapse completely in this era. No one will cycle through samsara anymore. This will be an era where the Dhamma is simple, and attaining awakening will be easy. All of us, whether young or old, able or disabled, women or men, can all attain awakening. It's a certainty. because we all have this pure mind, this pure element within us. All we need is someone to point it out clearly to us. That's it. Once it's shown, it will happen right now. There's no need for any more striving. It depends on whether we choose to do it. Do you understand? Whether we make it happen or not. If we're going to do it, then do it. Do you understand? Do you want to attain awakening? If you do, start now. See it. There's nothing that is us. This is not a sound. See it clearly. It's not difficult at all. Right now. No need to wait. Do I need to practice for 1,000,000 lifetimes before I can attain awakening? Is that what you're saying? Is that how it is? Which religion teaches that? The Dhamma is about the present moment, isn't it? Right now, the Dhamma is always in the present, isn't it? The path to awakening and nirvana happens now, in this very moment, right? So, realize it now. What's the hold-up? Or are you not interested in Buddhism? Do you not want to attain awakening? If you don't want to, then there's no need to study Buddhism. Why study it? What is Buddhism? Buddhism is the Buddha plus the teaching. The teaching is the guidance, the pointing. What is the Buddha? The Buddha is the awakened mind, the mind that is clear and joyful, showing us our own mind. And our mind is the element of knowing. It knows the sound right now. Do you see? Right now, the mind is hearing the sound. Can you see it? It hears it in its own way, doesn't it? Do you need to cultivate mindfulness first? No need to cultivate it. It's already hearing the sound right now. Where are we? Accept it with your heart. There's nothing. We don't need to think. We don't need to use the brain, just feel it. It's like a worm, and you can attain awakening right now. For anyone who says they don't have merit, listen to my teachings. I guarantee that everyone has equal merit. No one has more or less merit. It's the same for everyone. What does merit mean? It means being full. Full of what? Full of determination, full of confidence. What kind of confidence? The confidence that in this lifetime you will definitely attain awakening, that you will not be reborn 100%. Why? Because there is nothing that is you. What I'm saying right now is not a sound. There's no one speaking. And if anyone sees this as a sound, then they are still identifying with a self. This is what's called delusion, the mind seeing something that has no self, as if it does. Who is speaking? Is there anyone speaking? We just continue thinking, enjoying the thinking. Humans love thinking, playing with mental formations without realizing they're playing with them. This is avijjapakaya sankhara. Because of ignorance we fabricate. Even when pointed out so clearly, we still doubt. How can this not be me? How can I see that it's not me? I'm speaking right now. How can I say no one is speaking? Do you see? We're thinking, but we don't know it. You'll never know it because you haven't made a vow. You haven't desired to understand it. Therefore, anyone who wants to attain awakening must make a vow. We must set this vow every day with our heart, and I guarantee that you will not be reborn 100%. Share my teachings as much as you can. I've spoken the Dhamma on the Paponthak page because I know. Go ahead, share it on YouTube, Facebook, listen to it, share it even more. I guarantee that the people in this world will not be reborn. Do we want people in this world to stop being born? If we do, then share it. That's all. Don't we want to spread the Buddha's teachings? Well, this is the Buddha's teaching, pointing everyone out of the 5 aggregates. See the 5 aggregates as non-self. There's nothing here that is us. I point to the principle of non-self every day. This is the Buddha's teaching, showing us how to reverse the flow and awaken. Once we awaken, we no longer foolishly cling to mental fabrications. The mind then opens up and becomes joyful. This is Buddhism. Buddhism is about pointing the way, explaining to our mind so that we gain insight, realizing that we are pure elements. Why rely on mental formations? Oh mind, wake up. Don't be foolish, clinging to mental formations any longer. This sound has no self. Do not cling to it. Mental images, emotions, they have no self. The awareness itself has no self. Do not cling to it. There is nothing that is us. Do you understand? Oh mind, this is Buddhism. If something can help people break free from the cycle of samsara, then that is Buddhism. That's it. The first thing we must do is make a vow. Set your intention. Anyone who is afraid to make a vow is not practicing Buddhism. They don't know what religion they follow. If you can't even make the vow not to be reborn, then why is that? It's because you still want to be reborn. And then you claim to be spreading the Buddha's teachings, teaching others to be reborn. Is that really the Buddha's teaching? Which Buddha taught to be reborn? The Buddha never taught anyone to be reborn. The Buddha never taught that you can buy the path to nirvana with money. The Buddha never taught that you can buy merit with money. Look at the world today. People are using money to buy merit. They seek the Dhamma by trying to practice with their bodies. But the Dhamma is in the mind, not in the body. It is not found in the body. Material elements are everywhere in the world, clung to in form, in traditions, in teachers, in physical and mental phenomena. I teach not to cling. Don't cling to physical forms because they don't truly exist. Don't cling to mental phenomena because they don't truly exist. In the end, there is nothing to cling to. That's it. Dhamma is that simple. Alright, let's make a vow. Imagine the Buddha standing before us, millions of Buddhas, all looking at us. Picture this now. We are kneeling, palms together, bowing to the Buddha with our heart 3 times. Then look into the Buddha's face and make the vow with your heart. I vow before all the fully enlightened Buddhas from this moment on to diligently listen to the Dhamma of the mind, the Dhamma of non-self. I will understand it. I will awaken within. I will not foolishly cling to thoughts, emotions, or the awareness of these things. I will see that this nature is not me, it is not mine. I will not be reborn. This will be my last life. I ask all the Buddhas to witness. Once I realize the Dhamma, I will teach my children starting from the age of 4, and I will teach everyone I know. I will guide all beings to be free from samsara, showing them how to awaken within themselves. I will teach them not to foolishly cling to thoughts, to mental images, to emotions, or to the awareness of these things, because these are suffering, these are samsara, these are birth. We will not be reborn again. This will be my last life. I ask all the Buddhas to witness this, and I will teach and proclaim this until my last breath as an offering to the Buddha, to all the fully enlightened Buddhas. I will fulfill this duty in place of my Father. I will clear all beings from the cycle of samsara. Samsara must end in this era. There's no such thing as impossible. If it's possible, then it will be done. Father, watch over me. I've already made my vow to you. I myself, after all my doubts were cleared, this happened many years ago, over 10 years ago. Once I had no more doubts, I told my Father, I will carry out this duty for you. I will clear it all, leaving nothing behind. I will not allow any mind to continue circulating in samsara. Samsara will collapse in this era. There is no such thing as impossible. It will be made beautiful. I will point to the essence of the teaching so that all beings can hear it. The Dhamma will be simple, and attaining enlightenment will be simple. If it's possible, then so be it. When I announced this to my father, I have been following through for over 10 years now. Truly, I've taught a great deal of Dhamma. What has been shared with you is just over 200 tapes, just a small portion. In fact, I have recorded around 400 to 500 tapes. It's nothing extraordinary, no doubts here. The Dhamma is already within the mind. The entire Tipitaka is within the mind. It's easy to speak, there's nothing complicated. The Dhamma has 84,000 paths, but in any form they all lead to the same principle, the principle of anatta, non-self. In the end, the 84,000 paths don't truly exist. Even the voice I'm speaking with doesn't truly exist. It's just pointing out that there is nothing at all. There is no self. All Dhammas are non-self. All phenomena are without a permanent essence. The 5 aggregates are also non-self. When we reach this pure element, we will understand the beauty of the Buddha. The day I made this realization, the mind expressed the Dhamma. Now I truly know my Father with all my heart. How could my Father be so beautiful? Do not use the body for practice. Do not use money to purchase the path to Nibbana. Do not chase after teachers here and there. Do not carry the Dhamma as a burden, nor the teacher. The Dhamma is not found in books. That is simply sending the mind outward, and that is delusion. Seeing what is formless as having form, seeing the material world as having inherent existence, and seeing mental phenomena as having true existence, this is delusion. Do you understand? Oh, I can't tell you how many times I've explained this. The Buddha taught us to awaken to what is within. Write it on a piece of paper and put it on the wall at home. If you don't understand it, that's okay. For anyone who doesn't understand, I'd like to offer a suggestion. Go take a shower first and then come back to listen. Go wash up and take care of your needs first, or else it will become heavy and burdensome. Now, when we are awake within, who is it that is aware? The mind is constantly aware, you see, because the mind is the element of knowing. But actually the mind is not the element of knowing. It is empty, pure and clear. It has the characteristic of knowing, and it creates the substance of mind to make contact and perceive. So we rely on this since it's already been created. If you want to learn, go ahead and learn. Awakening within means being aware, knowing that you are hearing a sound right now. This is it. It is hearing, it is knowing. Where are we? Once you understand this, it's finished. There's nothing more. This is the Dhamma. This is Buddhism. It's as simple as this. The knower, the awakener, the one who is joyful. Joyful because they realize that what is known is not me. That's the end. It becomes the element of knowing, awake and joyful by its own nature. When we understand this, we will see that the mind knows and is awake to its own nature. It's peaceful, and right now it doesn't need to do anything at all. It doesn't need to do anything because it is always aware, always awake, always joyful. There is no me that arises in this world. Then we cry and say, "Oh, how foolish I am." The mind is foolish, but I'm not insulting anyone else. I'm only speaking to myself. Tears flow. This is how it is. Those who attain the Dhamma sometimes shed tears because they see their own ignorance. This is wisdom. Many people attain the Dhamma but are confused. They attain it and are still puzzled, not knowing what happened, only feeling lighter, freer, but without wisdom. These people lack wisdom. They will remember the scriptures, repeat the teachings of their teachers, and then speak them to others. But they are still relying on concepts, still fabricating. Even though they've attained the Dhamma, they still teach it as if it's a thing, as if it has form. This is why the Dhamma is declining in the world. They speak from fabrication, from memory, and teach others to fabricate, to memorize, to practice with the body. This is all ignorance. My role is simply to point out that the Dhamma is simple. We will attain the Dhamma easily because the new era is an era of simplicity. There is nothing difficult. It really is simple. Where could it be hard? There's nothing at all to do. The wise ones, the sages, can attain the Dhamma effortlessly by sitting or lying down. When I first listened to the teachings of the Buddha, I couldn't stand it. In the beginning, I longed so much to attain the Dhamma. But when I heard that the wise ones attain it effortlessly, just by sitting or lying down, I thought, what are we doing here? I didn't understand. At that moment, my mind began to brighten, but I still didn't get it. But when I finally understood, oh, it was like realizing that the eyelashes are always with the eyeball, but I didn't know they were together. I searched for the eyelashes everywhere, and then I realized they've always been with the eyeball. Once I understood, tears flowed, and I said to my father, I will handle this now. And that was it. Our minds are like the empty, clear element that creates ripples. It creates the sensation, the substance of the element. It performs the function of rippling to perceive, and then ripples again to fabricate. When it ripples to perceive, it sees its own fabrication. The thought, the sound being spoken, the mental image arising, the emotion appearing right now, they are all ripples of the mind. But the mind is aware. It sees that what is known, it knows on its own. The thinking, the imagining, the emotions, these are all the mind's own ripples. It works by itself. So where are we in all this? What are we really searching for? This is the kind of knowledge that has no spoken language. There are no words to explain it. The understanding arises by itself. It just happens. Tears fall. It simply bursts out from the sense of being human. It is not anything in particular. It bursts out from this sound, this mental image, this emotion, and then it understands. As a human being, it's just this. There is nothing more. What are all beings deluded by? The Dhamma is simple. The Dhamma is just this, to know. Actually, there is no one who knows. Just knowing that what is known is not known by anyone. That's it. The Dhamma is only this. It's just being awake, knowing that this awareness itself is not known by anyone. It is simply its own. That's the end of it. Tears fall. Everyone, remember this. The Dhamma is just knowing. Knowing what? Knowing that what is known is not known by anyone. That's it. There's no thing that is known, and there's no one who knows. But it knows in its own way. It knows its own wakefulness and joy, year after year, always in the present, fresh and new, all the time. Actually, the Buddha taught the Dhamma in every moment of awareness. We are right there before him, bowing to him every day. And he said, "My child, it's difficult to teach humans. Just teach them slowly." And so I said to my father, "I don't have any problems, Father. I'll take care of everything. You can rest easily. Just watch." That's it. There's nothing else. I'm simply sharing the essence of the Dhamma with all of you. Whoever wants to know me, come into the group at Punya 9. Come in, and you will receive all the wisdom I have to offer. I will share everything with you, so you may gain insight and understanding of all things. Our wisdom will know everything. This is called Patisambhida or Abhijñā. Whatever name you use, it doesn't matter. We will have it all, and I will guide you to dismantle the burden of all beings, leaving nothing behind. When I say dismantle the burden of all beings, I don't mean just humans. Humans are but a small part. Take 2 fingers and pick up some dirt. That's all humans amount to, just a speck, at the tip of your fingers. But the grains of dirt covering the whole earth, that is the mind, waiting to be helped. I will teach you how, and together we will dismantle it. We will see that, it's all gone now. We will know in the deepest part of our hearts, and we will see how pure and clear our minds are. For those who have realized the truth, we will see that each person in the group of wisdom-liberated beings has a bright, beautiful heart, one that we would want to bow to. And I will show you the state of my own mind, which is simply empty, without anything at all. It is a mind that has nothing at all, my mind. After practicing the Dhamma, I've lost everything. All possessions, all self, nothing remains. My mind is nothing. After practicing the Dhamma, it is simply nothing. We will see what I was born for. For those of you who have deep wisdom and insight, come, take a look at my mind. If you still don't see clearly, come, I will show you. I promise you will need tissues to wipe away tears. My mind is truly nothing. We will see that it is empty. There is nothing at all. It is nothing, it becomes nothing because it is nothing. This is the teaching of anatta, non-self, which I emphasize so we can understand the true nature of the mind, its root essence. The Dhamma is that simple. And now, as we are ready, I will conclude here. May all of us who have made the vow determined not to be born again, with the goal of Nibbana and taking anatta as our refuge, may we realize the truth of the Dhamma. May all attain enlightenment suddenly, everyone, all of you. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let all the Buddhas of all worlds be witnesses from this moment onward. I vow to continually listen to the Dhamma, to stay awake and aware within, to observe thoughts, emotions, and the knowing process as they arise. I understand them as nature, not as me or mine. I will not cling to any phenomena, nor will I be born again. This life will be the last. Upon awakening to the Dhamma, I will share this teaching with my children, my family, and everyone I know, so they too can be awake within and not be attached to thoughts, emotions, or concepts until the last breath. This is my homage to the Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.